In this lesson, we're going to learn how to write an equation of a line given the y-intercept of that line and another point that's on that line. So the problems will look like this. So a graph will be given, and remember, a line has an infinite number of points, right? There's an infinite number of points in that line. But specifically, 2 points are shown here with dots. See those? And you see this one right here, that one right here? That's where the graph crosses the y-axis. Remember, this is your y-axis here. This is the x-axis. That's where the graph crosses the y-axis. And so that's going to be your y-intercept. And so notice the direction, or not direction, but the topic says given the y-intercept. So in all these problems, you're going to specifically be told what the y-intercept is. Now your coordinates will be given. You have to find that, but you're told with a dot where the y-intercept is. And then here's the other point. Okay. Now remember, if the y-intercept's given, then the easy way to do that is to start out with what's called the slope-intercept form. And you talked about slope-intercept form, and you learned about that in a previous lesson. So there are several topics that dealt with slope-intercept form. Now remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And so if you're going to use slope-intercept form, you have to know the slope and the y-intercept, slope of the line and the y-intercept of the line, right? And so in this problem, you know the y-intercept. The only thing you don't know is the slope. Well, there are several ways you can find the slope of this line, right? And so one way to find the slope of that line is to use is to use the slope formula. So remember, the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember that? And so to use the slope formula, you're going to have to look at those 2 points that you know specifically on that line and indicate what their coordinates are. All right, so let's do it that way. So that's one approach to find the slope. So you have to find the slope. All right, so you must find the slope. Must find the slope. All right, so one way is to use the slope formula because you're given 2 points in that line. And so let's go ahead and label the coordinates. So remember, this is your y-intercept, so be careful about that. So remember, you always start the origin. To label the points, always start the origin. Now notice I'm going straight up, right? So I'm not going left, right at all. So since I'm not going left, right at all, my x-coordinate is 0. And I'm going straight up, and my y-coordinate is 5. So my y-intercept has coordinates 0, 5. And so remember, whenever you're looking at y-intercepts, the x-coordinate is always going to be 0. And if I look at the other point, the coordinates of that other point, so to get to that point, I'm going to start the origin. I'm going to go to the right 4 and then down 2. So this is 4, negative 2. All right. Now let's go ahead and rewrite this over here. So I have 0, 5, and then 4, negative 2. And the reason I'm rewriting it is, so remember in a previous lesson when you had to find a slope given 2 points, you labeled these. So let's call this the first point. So x1, y1, and this will be x2, y2. And then you just substitute, and let's go from there. So the slope equals y2, which is a negative 2, subtract y1, which is 5, right? Divided by, now remember, the order in the denominator is going to matter. So if you start with y2, you must start with x2. So if I start with negative 2 here, I must start with 4. So 4 subtract 0. All right, and so a negative 2 subtract 5 means negative 2 plus a negative 5. And then 4 subtract 0, that's easy, that's just 4. In the numerator, a negative 2 and a negative 5 is a negative 7, so you get negative 7/4. And so that is your slope, okay? All right, so that's the slope. All right, so right now I have this. Now listen carefully. So I'm going to go back right here, and we're going to look at number 1. So number one, the slope, I'm going to put it as m. So number 1, m equals negative 7/4. Y'all agree? All right. Now let me show you another way. So another way to get the slope, remember, is this. So watch. So here's the graph again, and just to remind you, another way to get that slope. So another way to get the slope is to use rise over run. Remember, slope is rise over run. Remember that? All right. So remember, it does not matter which approach you take to find the slope, or which point you take to find the slope. You can use this one, and then let's go to this one. So remember, that's where you draw that right triangle. So let's go on this side. So you have this right here. So I'm going to go to so let's go ahead and draw that right triangle. All right, so there's my right triangle. All right, so I'm going to go from this point, my path is this. So from this point, I'm going to go to the right and then down, right? Go to the right and then down. Now, just remember the line falls, so the slope has to be negative, and it is. All right, so the slope, remember, is negative 7/4. So since the line falls, your slope better be negative. All right, so I went to the right and then down. So let's count the number of units I went to the right. I went from here, I went 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And then I went down from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So since I went down, I'm going to say negative 7. And so my rise is the part that's going up and down, and my run is the part that's going right, left. So my rise is a negative 7, and my run is a positive 4. So notice the slope, negative 7/4. All right? So you remember, you have to know all the different ways, right? Because on a quiz or a test on a worksheet, you could be told to find the slope using a slope formula. So make sure you know all ways. It's important. And those are prerequisites for other concepts. All right, so that's one way to find the slope. Now remember, see how I went on this side and I started with this point? I could have, if I wanted to, just to remind you, about this. And we've talked about this in other topics as well. But if you want to, let's say, start here and go on this side, that's fine as well, isn't it? So watch. Let's go ahead and draw this right triangle. Let's go ahead and draw the right triangle, just like this. All right, now let's talk about the path. So if you want to start here and go this way, that's fine. So I'm going down and then to the right, correct? All right, so remember, slope is rise over run. All right, so I'm going down. So let's start at the point and go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's a negative 7. And then I'm running to the right. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, the positive 4. So my rise is a negative 7, and my run is a positive 4. So notice I get the same slope, right? And then if you want to go, let's say I'm going to use a different color. Let's use a highlighter. So let's say you wanted to use this one just to show you this side instead. All right, and let's say you want to start here. So I'm going to go up and then left, just to show you what's going to happen. So if I go up, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's a positive 7, right? And then to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a negative 4. So notice my slope. My slope would be rise, which is a positive 7, divided by my run, which is negative 4, which means the same thing. 7 divided by negative 4 means the same thing as negative 7/4. Okay? All right, so remember, different ways to find the slope. You can find it from the graph, or you can find it using the slope formula. All right, now once you find the slope, though, watch how simple this is. All right, once you find the slope, which is negative 7/4, and I know the y-intercept, right? The y-intercept, remember the y-intercept is 5, right? The y-intercept is 5, so let's go ahead and write that. So the slope is 4, b is 5, and you just substitute. So look at what you get. You get y equals negative 7/4 x plus 5. And there's your answer in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. All right. So remember, to get that answer, though, remember you have to first find the slope. And so that's all this process right here. That's all of this, finding the slope. Different ways of finding the slope. Okay. Once you find the slope, you now know the slope and the y-intercept. The y-intercept was given on the graph, right? The y-intercept is 5. And then you just substitute into the formula, and you're done. All right, now, listen carefully to this. So there is another way you can write this equation, though. And we really haven't talked about this other way before. So listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. So another way to write the equation, and when you get to college algebra, you're going to see this again. Another way to write the equation is in standard form. Okay? Standard form. All right, now listen carefully. So standard form is this. it looks like this. It's ax plus by equal c, where a, b, and c are integers. Okay, a, b, and c are integers. So you're going to put all the variables on one side and your constant on the other. That's what that says. That's standard form. Bring all the variables on one side, constants on the other, and you want the coefficients of x and y to be integers, and you want your constant to be an integer. So notice, see, you have fractions here, right? So when you write it like this, you don't want any fractions. All right, so let me show you how to do this. Once you have it in slope-intercept form, here's how you're going to write it in standard form. All right, so watch. Y equals negative 7/4 x plus 5. First thing you're going to do is you're going to clear your fraction. So you're going to multiply both sides by the LCD. So the LCD is 4, okay? And so you multiply both sides by 4. So let me go ahead and rewrite this just to show what's going to happen. All right, so notice the right side, there's only one term, so just say times 4. The right-hand side, there are two terms, so put that in parentheses and say times 4. So you can multiply both sides by 4, so that's what you did. You multiply both sides by 4. Now, notice I put parentheses here, right? So now we have to distribute. All right, so let's talk about that. So I get 4y equals, all right, now, be a little careful. 4 times a negative 7/4 x. So let's talk about what 4 times a negative 7/4 is. 4 times a negative 7/4. Notice, remember, the whole purpose of multiplying by the LCD is to clear those fractions. So you see the LCD is 4, right? So I multiplied 4 by negative 7/4. So notice the 4's divide out. You're left with factors of 1. So 1 times a negative 7 is a negative 7. So 4 times a negative 7/4 x is a negative 7x. And then 4 times 5 is 20. So that's where I'm at. So the first thing I did was I cleared the fraction. So I multiplied every term by 4. 4 times y, 4 times this, and 4 times 5 is 20. But you had to simplify this part here, right here. And then all you do now is bring the variable x to the other side. Okay, and let's go ahead and put x first. So I'm going to add 7x to both sides, and then look at your answer. So this will be your answer. So you're going to say 7x plus 4y equal, this is 0, when you combine like term, 20, and there's the answer. Okay, so this is the equation in standard form. Right? That's the equation in slope-intercept form. That's the equation in standard form. So remember, to get that standard form, we use the slope-intercept form to put it in standard form. All right. So just in case you're asked to write the equation in standard form, that's what you do. So you take the slope-intercept form, and then you go further with it. So slope-intercept form, remember this is slope-intercept form right here. Slope-intercept form. And then you're going to multiply both sides by the LCD, clear the fractions, bring all the variables one side, constants on the other. All right? Okay, so that is number 1. So let's look at another one. So let's see at number 2. Number 2. All right, so this is number 2. So you have this line. Notice you're given the y-intercept and you give another point on that line. Now remember, a line has an infinite number of points, but you're specifically told 2 of them. One of them is a y-intercept, and here's the other point. All right. Now remember, to write the equation of a line where the y-intercept's given, it is pretty easy to do that by using slope-intercept form. All right, so remember, slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And in order to write it in slope-intercept form, you need to know the slope and the y-intercept, right? So I know the y-intercept, I just don't know the slope yet, but I can easily find it. Because I can easily find it because I know 2 points in that line. I know specifically 2 points in that line, and so I can use the slope formula, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, right? Okay, so let's label the points. So remember your y-intercept. Now be careful. Make sure the coordinates are correct. So this is your y-intercept. So from the origin, go straight down. So your x-coordinate, since it didn't go left, right at all, I went straight down. My x-coordinate is 0. My y-coordinate, I went down 4, so that's a negative 4. So one of my points has coordinates 0, negative 4. The other one is this point here. So to get to that point, we go to the right 6 and up 3. So that's 6, 3. So the other point is 6, 3. And then we can use these 2 points to find the slope. So this will be x1, y1, x2, y2. So the slope equals. All right, so y2, which is 3, subtract y1, which is a negative 4, divided by x2, which is 6, subtract 0. Well, 3 subtract negative 4 means 3 plus 4, right? And then 6 subtract 0 is 6. So I get 7 divided by 6. So my slope is 7, 6. And I know it had to be positive because the line is rising. All right? So the slope is 7, 6. So now I know the slope. So the slope is 7, 6. And I know the y-intercept already, because that's already given. The y-intercept was negative 4. All right. Now, before we go on, let me remind you another way how to find the slope. So remember, we found the slope here using the slope formula. But remember, the other way is to use rise over run, right? So if I go and I do rise over run, all right, rise over run. So it does not matter which point you use. Let's go from here to that point. So I'm going this way. So we're going to draw a right triangle, and then we're going to look at the path. All right, so here's my right triangle. All right, so I'm going to go to the right and then up. Okay, now if I go to the right, remember going to the right is positive, going up is positive. So let's count the units. So here's my run, here's my rise. So my run, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My rise from here going up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my rise is 7, and my run is 6, and there's the slope. All right. So given the graph and you're specifically given 2 points, it's easy to find the slope by using rise over run. You can count the number of units. All right. Now, if you wanted to, just to remind you, if you wanted to, let's say, go this way, let me just quickly show you. So let's say you wanted to, instead of using this path here, let's say you wanted to use this path. Let's use this right here. Oops. Yeah. All right, so there's my right triangle. So let's say I want to go, let's do this. Let's go this way, just to show you. So I'm going to go to the left, and then I'm going to go down, left, down, just to show you get the same answer of positive 7, 6. So if I start here and go to this point using this path, let's count the units. Remember, I'm going to the left, so it'll be negative. I'm going down, so that'll be negative. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's negative 6. And then down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Negative 7, right? And so my slope will be rise, which is negative 7, divided by run, which is negative 6. But we know that a negative divided by negative is a positive, so that's 7, 6, which is what we knew was supposed to be. Okay? All right, so that's several ways of finding the slope, which you've learned in previous lessons. Now, let's go ahead and write the answer. So here's our answer. Once you found the slope, you already knew the y-intercept. Once you found the slope, it's just a matter of you taking this two values, substituting to your formula. So our answer in slope-intercept form will be y equals 7, 6x, and then plus b, so minus 4. There's your answer, 7, 6x minus 4. That's the answer. So that's slope-intercept form. All right, now, okay, so what I want to do now is show you how, if they asked you to, suppose they asked you put this in standard form. Put this equation in standard form. So let me show you let me remind you how to do that. So it's going to look just like number 1 that we did earlier. So this is in slope-intercept form. So remember, standard form is this. It's ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are integers, no fractions. Okay? A, b, and c are integers, no fractions. So the first thing you want to do is to rewrite this. And it's very simple, not difficult at all. Rewrite this, and you multiply both sides by the LCD. The LCD is 6. That's the least common denominator. LCD equals 6. So you're going to say times 6, and then times 6. And notice I put that in parentheses because there were 2 terms on this side. Now we're going to distribute the 6, okay? So I get 6y equal, now let's think about 6 times 7, 6. Now remember, the whole purpose of multiplying by the LCD is to clear that fraction right here. So that 6 better reduce with the LCD, and it does, or better divide into the LCD, and it does. 1 times 7 is 7. So 6 times 7, 6x is 7x. And then 6 times a negative 4 is a negative 24. All right, and then all you do is one more step. You're going to bring the 7x to the other side. So you're going to subtract 7x from both sides. And let's put x first. So I get the answer in standard form will be negative 7x plus, negative 7x plus 6y equal, this is 0, negative 24. Okay, so that is standard form. That is standard form. All right, now just to remind you, remember, someone else could have brought the 6y over and the negative 24y over. So I just want to show you this. Someone else could have done this. So I'm just letting you know that this standard form could have the signs could have been different. All right, so I just want to show you what could have happened. So you see where we had this right here? So 6y equals 7x minus 24. So someone else could have said, well, I'm going to subtract 6y from both sides, and that's fine. You can definitely do that. It's mathematically correct. 6y minus 6y is 0, but you got to put 0 here, equal negative 6y plus 7x. Let me put x first, I'm sorry. 7x minus 6y minus 24. That's a y here. But remember, you got to bring that constant to the other side, so I'm going to add 24 to both sides now. And then 0 plus 24 is 24, equal, this is 0, 7x minus 6y. So left side equal right side means the same thing as saying right side equal left side. So I can write this as 7x minus 6y equal 24. So that's another way of writing this in standard form. So you could have said r 7x minus 6y equal 24. So I want you to notice the signs are different on every term. They're opposites, right? I shouldn't say the terms are opposites, but the signs are different. Let me put it this way. The signs are different. Negative, positive, positive, negative, negative 24, positive 24. So if you specifically look at the terms, negative 7x, its opposite is here. If you specifically look at the term 6y, its opposite is here. If you specifically look at the term negative 24, its opposite is here. All right? But the signs, students look at the signs and they want to recognize that the signs are different. But the terms are really opposites also, right? Negative 7x, positive 7x. But those are both the same answer. All you did was multiply each of those terms by negative 1 to get this. So negative 1 times negative 7x is positive 7x. Negative 1 times 6y is a negative 6y. Negative 1 times negative 24 is a positive 24. So it does not matter which standard form you use. They're equivalent. They're equivalent. All right, so just to show you that if you do it this way, you'll get this. If you take this equation and bring the variables to the right and the constant to the left, you'll get this one instead. All right? Okay, so I know this is kind of a little complicated right now, but the more problems you do, the easier your understanding will be. All right, let's look at number 3. So here's number 3. All right, number 3. All right, number 3, you're given this line. Again, notice you're given the y-intercept. That's where the graph crosses the y-axis. And you're given another point of that line. So if I want to write the equation of this line, then I can easily do that because I know the y-intercept, so I can use slope-intercept form. All right, so use slope-intercept form. And remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And if I'm going to use slope-intercept form, I must know the slope, and I must know the y-intercept. Well, you're told the y-intercept. What's the y-intercept here? What do you see? Where does the graph cross the y-axis? Well, the graph crosses the y-axis at 3. So my y-intercept is 3. All I've got to do now is find the slope, right? Find the slope. And so there are several ways to find the slope. So one way to find a slope, remember, is to use, I'm going to go ahead and do that here, is to use rise over run. So let's do that. All right, rise over run. So let's say you want to start here and go to this point. So let's go to let's draw a triangle this way, and you could have done it this way if you wanted to, but I'm going to do it this way. this way. So there's my right triangle. So the path, I'm going to go to the left and then up. Now notice the line is falling, right? So the slope better be negative. All right, so from this point, I'm going this way. So count the units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's negative 7. And then going up. Now it's negative because I went to the left. Now I'm going up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my rise is 7. So my slope will be rise over run. So 7 divided by negative 7, right? 7 divided by negative 7, which we know simplified is a negative 1. So my slope is a negative 1. Slope is a negative 1. All right? Now, that's one way of finding the slope. So right now, I know this. I know my y-intercept is 3, and my slope is negative 1. But let me remind you that you could have also found the slope using a slope formula, so that's important as well. So let's go ahead and practice that. Let's practice finding the slope of that line using the slope formula. So if I'm going to use the slope formula, remember y2 minus y1 over x2 divided minus x1, I've got to know the coordinates of that point. So here's my y-intercept. So the coordinates of the y-intercept, since I'm going straight up, I'm not going left, right. My x-coordinate is 0. I'm going straight up, so that's 3. So my y-intercept is 0, 3. Has coordinates 0, 3. The coordinates of this point here, I'm going to the right 7 and then down negative 4. So right 7, down negative 4. So that's 7, 7, negative 4. So there's x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's go and find the slope using the slope formula. So y2 minus y1. So a negative 4 subtract 3 divided by x2, which is 7, subtract 0. A negative 4 and a negative 3 is a negative 7, and then 7 minus 0 is 7, and notice you get negative 1. All right, so the slope's negative 1. And so therefore, let's go ahead now and write the equation. So we found the slope, and we found the two ways. All right, so we found it using rise over run, and we found it using slope formula. Okay, all right, so now let's go ahead and write the equation. So y equals the slope, negative 1 times x plus b, which is 3. Now, rewrite negative 1 times x. You know negative 1 times x is just negative x. So we get y equals negative x plus 3. So that is slope-intercept form. Okay? All right, now let's talk about standard form. So let's rewrite this in standard form. So write this equation. In standard form. All right, so remember standard form is ax plus by equals c. All right, so all integers, no fractions. Well, first of all, notice you don't have any fractions, do you? So this is going to be an easy one. No fractions at all. So watch. You have y equals negative x plus 3. So all you do is add x to both sides. And when you do that, you get x plus y. This is 0 equal 3. And there's your answer. The coefficient of x is 1. The coefficient of y is 1. And your constant is 3. That's it. That is standard form. So you did not have to multiply by the LCD because there were no fractions. All right, so standard form. All right, that's number 3. All right, let's look at number 4. So number 4. All right, so here's number 4. You want to write the equation with the line below. So notice you're given the point where the graph crosses the y-axis, which is at 8. So my y-intercept is 8, right? And then you're given the other point. So if you're going to find the equation of this line, notice the y-intercept is given. So since the y-intercept is given, it is so much easier to use slope-intercept form. So number 4, let's talk about that, slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. So remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So you're given the y-intercept right away, right? So you know b. b in this case, if you look at it, b is 8. See, that's 8. So b is 8. So all you got to do is find the slope. All right, so there are several ways to find the slope. We know several different ways. One way is to use a slope formula. That's one way. So slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I can use a slope form because I'm given 2 points on that line. Now, whenever you use the slope formula and you have to use the 2 points, be careful with the y-intercept. Some students get confused with the coordinates of the y-intercept. So remember, you start at the origin. Notice you're going straight up, right? You're not going left, right at all. So that means x is 0. So you're going straight up. So you're going up to 8. So my y-intercept is 0, 8. So there's one of your points. Not 8, 0, because 8, 0 is over here. It's 0, 8. Okay, so that's important. Make sure 0 is in the right place. And then over here, to get to that point, you're going to the left 6 and then up 4. So that's negative 6, comma 4. So there's the other point, negative 6, comma 4. So there's your x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's now substitute. So slope will be y2, which is 4, subtract y1, which is 8, divided by x2, which is negative 6, subtract x1, which is 0. So 4 subtract 8 is a negative 4. A negative 6 minus 0 is a negative 6. Now remember, your slope, the line rises, so your slope better be positive. So make sure you recognize that a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 4, 6 can be reduced. So make sure you reduce this. So the slope is going to be 2/3. So there's your slope, 2/3. Okay? So I found the slope. So the slope is 2/3. Slope is 2/3. And now all you do is substitute and you got your equation. But before we do that, let me remind you of another way to find that slope. So let's go ahead and do this another way. So remember the slope is rise over run, right? Rise over run. So I'm going to draw my triangle, and it does not matter whether you start at this point or that point, or does not matter, and whether you draw a triangle to the left or a triangle to the right of it. All right, so let's go ahead and do the left one this time. So let's draw a triangle like this, just like this. All right, so there's my right triangle, and let's talk about the path. If you start here, you're going to go up to the up and then to the right. If you start here, you're going to go to the left and then down. All right, so let's start going this way. Up, right. So if I go up, let's talk about the units. So remember, up is your rise, to the right, left is the run. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a positive 4 because I went up. And then I'm going to the right. So from here, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like counting the steps. 6 is positive because I went to the right. If you had gone the other path, that would be negative, negative. Okay? But you would still get the same answer. So my rise is a positive 4. My run is a positive 6. And then reduce, that's 2/3. So notice you get the same slope regardless of whether you use the slope formula or whether you use the idea of rise over run. But you have to know both. It's important. You have to know both. All right, so I found the slope, and now I know the answer in slope-intercept form. So remember, slope-intercept form, y equals the slope, which is 2/3, times x plus b, which is 8. So there's the answer in slope-intercept form. Okay, slope-intercept form. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about how to rewrite this in standard form. Now write this in standard form. Write this in standard form. All right, now remember though, if all they wanted was to put this in slope-intercept form, there's your answer. But if they tell you to write this in standard form, once you have it in slope-intercept form, all you have to do is just transform this into ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are integers. Okay? And so notice I have a fraction, so let's go ahead and multiply both sides by 3. The LCD is 3. So notice the LCD equals 3 here. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this over. So you're going to take your slope-intercept form equation, and you're going to multiply both sides by 3, just like that. What you do to one side, you do to the other. Notice I put this in parentheses because I had 2 terms here. So every term has to be multiplied by 3. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of the parentheses by using the distributive property. So I get 3y equal. All right, now 3 times 2/3, right? 3 times 2/3. And so 3 times 2/3, if 3's divide out, you're just left with 2. So 3 times 2/3 x is going to be 2x. And then 3 times 8 is 24. All right? And then all you need to do is just bring the 2x to the other side. So subtract 2x from both sides, and let's put the x term first. So the answer in standard form will be negative 2x plus 3y equal, this is 0, 0 plus 24 is 24. So that's the answer in standard form. But remember, just like we talked about earlier, so remember one of the other previous problems, do y'all see that the other answer, someone else could have had this as well? Just to remind you, somebody else could have had, now do you remember, if you look at this standard form, do you know what the other standard form could be? All you do is just change the signs. Basically, you're multiplying both sides by -1. So you just change the signs. A negative 2x, the opposite is 2x. A positive 3y, the opposite is negative 3y. Equal. A positive 24, the opposite is negative 24. And that's what someone else could have had. But let me just show you how they would have gotten this. So remember we're right here, 3y equal 2x plus 24. So what they probably did is this. They probably brought the 3y to the other side, which is fine. So subtract 3y from both sides. And then 3y minus 3y is 0 equal 2x minus 3y, plus 24. And then they brought the constant to the other side, so subtracted 24 from both sides. 0 minus 24 is a negative 24, equal. And then, all right, so then on this side, you get 2x minus 3y. This is 0. And then notice, remember, left side equal right side means the same thing as saying right side equal left side. So 2x minus 3y equal negative 24. And that is, and by the way, that's the using the transpose property. So I'm just transposing both sides. So that is right here, this right here is this right here. Okay? So you get this. So notice this is this. So it did not matter whether someone in your class had this or someone else had this. All right? Still correct. All right, so that's number 4. That's number 4. All right, let's do one more. So one more, and I think you'll have an idea of how to do this. All right, you probably already know how to do these problems now. All right, but let's do one more. So notice you want to write the equation of a line. You're given the y-intercept, and you have another point in that line. So remember, a line has an infinite number of points. You're specifically told 2 of them, though. All right, so if I'm going to write an equation of a line, and the y-intercept's given, then it's so easy. It is so easy to use slope-intercept form. That's how easy it is. And so remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So in order to use slope-intercept form, you've got to know the slope and the y-intercept. And I know the y-intercept in this case. The y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis, and that's at 7. So my y-intercept is 7, so b equals 7. All I've got to do now is find the slope of that line. So there are a couple ways you can find the slope. One way is that since I have 2 points in that line that I know of, that I can see visually right now, that have dots on them, then I can use slope formula. So the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And just be careful when writing the coordinates of the y-intercept. Some students get that mixed up. So they tend to put 0 in the wrong place. So remember, you're starting the origin going straight up, right? So that means that you did not go left, right, anywhere. You went straight up. So that means that my x-coordinate is 0, and then my y-coordinate is 7. All right, so it's important you write the coordinates correct. Otherwise, your slope will be incorrect. And then also notice my line rises, so the slope better be positive. And then over here, the coordinates of this point, start the origin, you go to the left, -8, and then down, -3. So that's -8, -3. So that point's in the third quadrant. So this is quadrant 3. So here's the other point, -8, -3. So there's your x1, y1, x2, y2. So the slope will be y2, which is -3, subtract 7, y1, which is 7, divided by x2, which is -8, subtract x1, which is 0. Well, a -3 and a -7 is a -10. A -8 subtract 0 is a -8. We know that a negative divided by negative is a positive, and we also know that 10/8 can be reduced. They're both divisible by 2. So this becomes 5/4. So my slope is 5/4. So now I know the slope. So the slope is 5/4. Once I know the y-intercept, once I know the slope, I have my answer right away. All right. But before we put that answer, though, let me just remind you how you could have found the slope just using rise over run. So remember, you can also, since you're given specifically 2 points on that line, you could easily find the slope without having to use the slope formula. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. So it does not matter which side you draw the right triangle on. Let's go ahead and do it this side right here. So let's go ahead and draw the right triangle, just like this. All right, drawing the right triangle. And then you want to talk about a path. Do you want to start here or here? It does not matter. Let's go ahead and start here. So if I start here and go to this point along that path, I'm going down, right? And I'm going to the left. Down, left. So remember, you go down, it's going to be negative, and go to left, it's negative. So let's count the units. So here's my rise, here's my run. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So my rise is a negative 10. So my slope is rise over run. So my rise is a negative 10. Divided by, and then my run, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's a negative 8. So negative 10 divided by negative 8, which is, when you look at it, which is what you see here in it. And then when you reduce this, you get 5/4. All right, so the slope is 5/4. So that's just using rise over run. So we can use rise over run, or we can use the slope formula. All right, now once I know the slope, I know the answer now. So I get y equals 5/4 times x. So here's my slope times x, and then b is positive, so I just say plus 7. If b was negative, you say minus 7. All right, and that's it. Now, so that's slope-intercept form, right? That's slope-intercept form. But what if they asked you to put this in standard form? So let's go ahead and write this in standard form. Write this in standard form. All right, now remember, standard form is where you write it as this equation: ax plus by equals c. So all the variables on one side, constants on the other, no fractions. So you want a, b, and c to be integers. So notice I have a fraction here. So let's go ahead and clear the fraction. So multiply both sides by the LCD, which is 4. So we're going to rewrite this over. So you're going to start with your slope-intercept form. 5/4 x plus 7. So what I do to one side, I do the other. So multiply this side by 4 and this side by 4. All right, so 4 times y is 4y equal, and then let's go ahead and distribute. So I have 4 times 5/4, right? And then let's go ahead and reduce this. The 4's divide out, and 1 times 5 is 5. So 4 times 5/4 x is 5x. And then 4 times 7, remember you got to multiply both of these that's inside the parentheses by 4. So don't forget to do 4 times 7 as well. 4 times 7 is 28. Now to put this in standard form, remember all the variables on one side, so we got to bring this 5x to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides, and let's put the x term first. So I get negative 5x plus 4y, negative 5x plus 4y equal, this is 0, 28. And there's your answer in standard form. Oops, sorry, that's an x, excuse me, that's an x. So ax plus by equals c. So the coefficient of x is negative 5, the coefficient of y is 4, and your constant is 28. So that is standard form. Now, I asked you this in the previous problem. So someone else, what would someone else, if they wrote this differently, what would be another correct answer? So another correct answer in standard form is just where you multiply a return by negative 1. So the opposite of negative 5x is 5x. The opposite of 4y is negative 4y equal, and the opposite of 28 is a negative 28. Now, those people that got this is what they did. Just to remind you, we did this before. So let me show you again. So at this point, this is what they did to get that other standard form. So what they did was they subtracted 4y from both sides, just like that. 4y minus 4y is 0 equal, and then 5x minus 4y combining, well, there aren't any like terms, but let's just rewrite this as 5x minus 4y plus 28. So there weren't any like terms on this side. Then they subtracted 28 from both sides. And so 0 and a negative 28 is a negative 28 equal, combining like terms here, that's 0. And you get 5x minus 4y. And then we know that if the left side equals the right side, then the right side better equal the left side, right? So 5x minus 4y equal negative 28. So this means the same thing as this. And that is, right here, that is what you see here. Let me just kind of move it over just to show you. Let me do it this way. All right, see? That is the same as this, okay? So that's it. So that is the lesson on writing the, let me put it here. So writing an equation of a line given the y-intercept and another point. All right, so this was quite involved, but I gave you quite a few examples to look at. So hopefully this is going to help you understand the topic on writing an equation of a line given the y-intercept and another point. Okay, that will be the end of this lesson.